What is going on, all of you Metroid hunters out there in the world? I'm Mega Amster. Thank you for watching this YouTube video. Whether you are a new or returning viewer, I appreciate you stopping by as always. And today, I wanted to follow up on a game that I've been kind of on and off about for a while now, until just recently, a couple weeks ago. As of this upload, we had the big September Nintendo Direct, showcasing a bunch of new upcoming games for the rest of 2025 into 2026. And for a while there, Metroid Prime 4, I just was not super excited for. When the game was first announced, I was extremely excited. I was like, finally, it's been, I think at that point it was, 2017 when it was first announced at E3. It had been like 10 years since the release of Prime 3. So it's like, let's go, they're making a Prime 4 for the new platform, the Switch, it's great. And then, of course, nothing. 2019, we heard the game was getting scrapped, and Retro was being brought on to work on the game. Supposedly, the rumor was Bandai Namco was working on the original one. Clearly, whoever was working on that original version, Nintendo did not like it. It did not meet their standards, and then they brought in Retro. And then we hadn't heard about the game for forever until 2024, when we finally got a new look. And that trailer, to me, just didn't really have much new going on about it, right? We kind of saw an opening level. We did see, in fact, Silux. They're keeping their promises on Silux returning in this game. And otherwise, it just looked okay. Looks like Metroid Prime, we had Remastered come out. I think if Prime Remastered hadn't come out, I think I personally would have been even more excited. But Prime Remastered, we saw how beautiful that game looked. Fast forward a year and a half later, we get the next Prime 4 trailer for the first time, and literally, like, that was the first trailer officially ever, not just teaser. And it was a big deal, but I was also like, I don't know, thinking about it, there wasn't a lot new. It just looked like another Metroid Prime. So what was it going to be about this game that hooked me? The next trailer, I feel like tried to do some of that, but didn't really. We had the whole psychic abilities reveal. This was at, I believe was this the Switch 1 Direct in early 2025, before the Switch 2 presentation, I believe it was, when we got to see Samus's psychic powers and like moving her hand to open doors and pulling on stuff. And I'm like, this just feels like the motion controls from Prime 3. Like, sure, it's kind of cool. Some of the enemies looked new and different. That was cool, but like, what do we have that really is going to make this game stand apart? Because we've had 3 Metroid Primes, and for fans who've been waiting for this game for so long, and maybe even new people to jump in, you need to have something in this game that is going to really stand out. So for the longest time, I wasn't that hyped for it. You know, I wanted to support the game regardless, because of course I want Metroid to succeed as someone who's a big Metroid fan, and I want to see Nintendo make more Metroid games, because I think it's one of their best series. And I was like, okay, I want to support this game regardless, but I'm not super hyped. I'm not super excited to check this one out. Then we get the trailer that dropped in the September 2025 Nintendo Direct. And it's a very polarizing trailer, but it is showing us what exactly Prime 4 has to offer that is completely different from the previous 3 Metroid Prime games. Because yes, this is Retro, but it's also not the same Retro studios. Like in terms of the developers, the team, I'm sure people have gone and left. And yeah, clearly it's just taken them a while to develop this game. And now we kind of know why. Because based on this trailer you're watching now, the main thing seems to be, like some rumors were saying previously, this is going to be a pretty open game. At least in terms of, like, there's going to be open areas to explore. And you might think, oh, Metroid is usually a pretty slow-paced exploration, kind of take your time and explore areas, get all the collectibles. What is going to enable me to be able to travel through this big open area in a way that doesn't feel cumbersome? Lo and behold, Samus has a motorcycle, which definitely a contentious topic. Personally, I love this because I am not completely... I love Metroid. I think the series can evolve beyond what its predecessor set, and I think this is a way they could potentially do that. Now, there's also a potential for this to feel too gimmicky and to feel too barren. But on the flip side, you know, having an open, barren world, like, that's honestly, like, part of that is kind of the Metroid ethos, because one argument I've seen against this idea, right, is that Metroid is known for its, like, solitary ambiance. Like, you are alone in this world except for all the creatures roaming around exploring and whoever the primary antagonist is. I don't think this gameplay change to make this big open area, I don't think that changes that, because, and this is where it might get a little tricky, the open worlds here, I mean, you have some enemies attacking you. You have like that big open desert we saw earlier. Like, it looked pretty barren, but that is going to be the point. Like, I'm sure there will be places you can stop along, get collectibles, you know, like find little hidden nooks and crannies, and I'm sure you're going to be able to go from like location to location. I imagine it's also taking place on this one planet. I forget what the name was. They mentioned it in a previous trailer. But still, this big open area you're going to be able to explore. I think the idea of it being barren will actually kind of lend itself to the atmosphere more. What that could mean, though, and that is my fear, and I think a lot of people's worry, is that it could be a drag on the main core gameplay itself. Because if that's a big, just empty area, I mean, sure, the bike's going to be pretty fast, but if you're just driving around completely open, barren areas, I personally love stuff like that. A lot of people might not. A lot of people, especially in a game, in an industry where a lot of games are really expanding their scope and going open like this. In a lot of ways, you need to fill up that open space with something, otherwise players are going to lose interest. So that is my main concern with this. But I think the barrenness of like the desert and like the kind of like frosty ice area we saw with the wolves attacking Samus, I think there's a lot of cool vibes to this in terms of it just being Samus still. But you see, like, for example, a base that's on fire. You see creatures attacking you. Like, there are clearly like chests and other enemies on the motorcycle, you know, that you can attack. And there is, oh, that tree in the background. Like, I don't quite know how open this game is going to be. I really don't expect this to be like an open world game. I expect it to be more along the lines of, like, I think I've heard about some comparisons to like Twilight Princess with Hyrule Field. I think that is a pretty solid comparison, and I feel like that's what we're going to get here. I don't think this is going to be quite an open world Metroid game, because honestly, that would be expanding the scope a lot. I think this is just kind of adding some in-between areas that aren't just elevators or fast travel. Like, I'm sure those will be options in the game, but like, to get the motorcycle to drive around and really have this interconnected, you know, driving between the two. It definitely is contentious. You know, hardcore Metroid fans, I've seen people go both ways. I don't know. I don't know if I can consider myself a hardcore Metroid fan. I've played almost every Metroid game, but I'm also willing for the series to evolve, and I'm curious to see how this kind of open driving exploration factors into the game. But for me, this is what is making the game exciting to me. Now I am hyped for Metroid Prime 4, and it is still coming out this year on December 4th, 2025, so I'm very excited for that. I might try to get one of the amiibo, maybe Silex. The bike amiibo looks cool, but also looks huge. I think it would take up too much space on my shelf, but it does look cool nonetheless. I'm excited now. You know, the psychic abilities, I'm sure will be fine. It seems like they're really just trying to find a way to bring back the motion controls from Prime 3 with that. But the motorcycle, I'm definitely curious about. I do worry about, like I said before, the gameplay getting a little stale, maybe, but just like the emptiness of the world, I think will add to the ambiance of like just the game itself, the vibes, but like also could be a detriment to gameplay. So I'm curious to see how they find that balance. I think it's going to be really tough to find that balance, and to be honest, I don't know if, I mean, Retro's a very capable studio, but that's a tall order to ask. I don't know if they're going to be able to fulfill that. I do have a feeling that many people will complain about it being too barren, but I don't know. We'll see how it is in motion when the game comes out. I mean, the game's almost out in 2 months, which is crazy to think about Prime 4 being announced over 8 years ago as of this upload, and now it's going to be coming out very, very soon, you know? It's great to see that. It's going to be on Switch 1 and 2. And I don't know, I just, honestly, like, before I wrap up this video, because this is not a long video here for sure, I just wanted to talk about Prime 4 a little bit and get my thoughts out there, and follow up with all of you who, you know, were asking me why I wasn't super hyped for Prime 4. Now I am. But the whole thing with Silex, right? Obviously, he's tied into Prime 3, Hunters, Federation Force, apparently, which I have not played. That's one of the only Metroid games I have not played. I can't say I'm super hyped for Silex to be the villain here. I'm hoping they make him more of a character and like expand on his story, if anything. But like, I don't really have much of a reason to be super excited, especially because like he didn't really have much character before this. But like, you know, why does he have Metroids with him? You know, like, what's going on with these new space pirate enemies we see and stuff like that. Like, there are some questions to ask. I don't know what the story in this game is going to be like. Something tells me this is going to be very gameplay focused over story, but I'm hoping they at least flush out Silex a little more if they are going to make him seemingly the primary protagonist. But, you know, we'll see once the game actually comes out and we'll play it. But yeah, that was... Silex was not a reason for me to get hyped. It really was the bike and the open areas that got me excited. There is a lot of potential for this to go wrong. I trust Retro to make this compelling gameplay, but I definitely understand, you know, Metroid fans' trepidation with this. You know, it's definitely polarizing. I would like to see if this does open up Prime to other players. If they see it's more open, they're like, "Ooh, cool, bike, I'm gonna check it out." You know, maybe. You know, it's gonna be tough because the game's labeled 4. They know it's a sequel to a sequel to a sequel, right? But I don't know. I'm hoping this game does well. I just want Metroid to do well. Do I think this will become the best-selling in the series? I've heard some people say yes, some people say no. I think there's a potential. Currently, Dread is the best-selling, but I could see this surpassing Dread. Just let alone that it's 3D and it's more open exploration. But only time will tell. I mean, I'm just hoping the best for Metroid. I'm just happy that I'm excited for the next Metroid game now. For a while, I wasn't there. And it's glad to be excited for Metroid again after this trailer, really showcasing the hook for this game. But anyways, everybody, that's going to do it for this quick little discussion video about Metroid Prime 4. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I want to have a discussion here, because are you on the side of people who really like the bike gameplay and are excited for the game like me now? Or are you a little more cautious like some other people and wonder if it's going to hurt the overall gameplay experience? Because either argument I could understand, you know? We don't know until the game fully comes out and we play it ourselves. But definitely let me know your thoughts on Metroid Prime 4 and Metroid as a whole in the comments below. Otherwise, I will catch you all on the next video or live stream. And until then, stay safe out there. Watch out for Metroids. They're out there. Call Samus if you need to. See you later.